My fiancée's phone kept buzzing during dinner. She smiled and muted it. "Just the girls," she said. Later that night, I opened a chat I was never meant to see and realized the wedding date wasn't the only thing being planned. I'm 33, and I thought I had everything figured out. My fiancé and I had been together for 4 years, engaged for the last 8 months. We had what seemed like a good relationship. We laughed together, rarely fought, supported each other's careers. She worked in marketing, I worked in tech. We'd saved up for a decent wedding, nothing extravagant but nice. 200 guests, venue booked, invitations sent. The wedding was 6 weeks away. Last Tuesday started like any normal evening. We'd both gotten home from work around the same time, changed into comfortable clothes, and decided to order takeout instead of cooking. We were sitting at our kitchen table with Thai food spread out between us when her phone started going off. Buzz, buzz, buzz. She glanced at it, smiled, and flipped it face down. Buzz, buzz. "Popular tonight," I said, reaching for the pad Thai. "Just the girls, wedding planning stuff. They're excited." "Want to respond?" "I don't mind." "No, it's fine. I'll catch up with them later." She muted her phone and set it aside. We ate, talked about our days, watched an episode of something we'd been binge-watching. Normal, comfortable. Everything seemed fine. Around 10, she went to take a shower. Her phone was charging on the kitchen counter. I was loading the dishwasher when it lit up with a notification. I wouldn't have looked. I'm not that person, never have been. Except the preview on her lock screen caught my eye. The message was from her maid of honor. "Did you tell him yet? We need to finalize everything before—" The preview cut off there. Tell me what? Finalize what? I stared at the phone, heard the shower still running. After a moment of internal debate, I picked up her phone. I knew her passcode. We'd never hidden our phones from each other. She knew mine too. It had never been an issue. I unlocked it and opened her messages. The group chat with her bridesmaids was at the top. I scrolled up, reading. And I kept reading. And reading. And then I had to sit down. Update 1, I need to explain what I read, or at least how I interpreted it. I acknowledge that text messages can be misunderstood or taken out of context, but this is how I perceived the conversation at the time. The group chat was called Operation Freedom. There were 6 women in it, my fiancé, her maid of honor, and 4 bridesmaids. The messages went back 3 months. It started with what I read as jokes about wedding stress and cold feet. Then the tone seemed to shift. One of the bridesmaids appeared to ask, "Are you sure you want to go through with this?" My fiancé's response seemed to express doubt. "I don't know." Some days yes, some days no. The maid of honor. "What are the no days about?" My fiancé. "He's safe, stable, good provider. But is that enough?" Another bridesmaid. "Girl, if you're asking that question 6 weeks before the wedding." My fiancé. "I know, but we've already spent so much money, everyone's coming. I can't just cancel." They went back and forth like this for weeks. My fiancé seemed to express doubts, while her friends alternated between what appeared to be encouragement to leave and sympathy about the difficulty of canceling. Then, about 2 weeks ago, I read something that made my blood run cold. Again, this is my interpretation of what I saw. My fiancé appeared to write, "I talked to someone about the money. If we go through with the wedding, I can file for divorce after a year and get half of everything." I had to read that twice. Then 3 times. The maid of honor seemed to respond, "Wait, you're serious?" My fiancé. "He's been saving for years, has investments, retirement accounts. If I leave now, I get nothing. If I marry him and leave later, I get half." One bridesmaid wrote what I interpreted as, "That's cold." My fiancé. "That's practical. I've invested 4 years in this relationship. I should get something out of it." Another bridesmaid seemed uncomfortable. "What about him? That's really messed up." My fiancé. "He'll be fine. He's always fine. He's boring, but he's resilient. They appeared to argue about it in the chat. 2 of the bridesmaids seemed to think it was wrong. The other 3 appeared supportive. My fiancée defended what I interpreted as her position repeatedly, saying something about deserving compensation for wasting her 20s on someone who never excited her. The most recent messages from earlier that day seemed to discuss timing. They appeared to be talking about how long she should stay married before filing for divorce. A year seemed to be the consensus based on what I read, long enough to not look suspicious, short enough that she wouldn't be wasting more time. I sat in the kitchen, phone in my shaking hands, rereading everything. The shower had turned off. I could hear her moving around in the bedroom. I put her phone back on the counter exactly where it had been, went to the living room, sat on the couch, stared at the wall. Based on what I'd read, it appeared my fiancé might be planning to marry me with the intention of divorcing me a year later for financial reasons, and I had 6 weeks to decide what to do about what I'd discovered. Update 2. I didn't sleep that night, just lay there running through scenarios. What I'd read might not mean what I thought. Maybe I was misinterpreting. Maybe it was dark humor I didn't understand. Maybe they were venting and didn't mean any of it. But it didn't feel like that. It felt calculated, specific, intentional. By morning, I'd decided to act normally while I figured out my next move. This was too important to handle based on emotion alone. She woke up around 7, got ready for work, like always, kissed me goodbye like always, said, "I love you," like always. I said it back, though it felt hollow now. After she left, I sat at the kitchen table with coffee and my laptop, started researching. Found out we lived in a state with equitable distribution laws, not community property. Divorce didn't automatically mean 50-50, but it did mean a judge would divide assets fairly based on various factors including length of marriage and individual contributions. I'd been saving and investing for 10 years before we met. Most of my assets were established before our relationship, but 4 years together, plus a marriage, might give her claim to some of it. And based on what I'd read, a year of marriage could complicate things significantly. I called out of work, spent the day talking to a family law attorney. I explained that I'd discovered some concerning messages and had serious doubts about my partner's intentions entering the marriage. He was direct. I can't advise based on messages that might be misinterpreted, but I can tell you this. If you have genuine doubts about your partner's intentions, the cleanest solution is to end the engagement now. Any assets you've accumulated before marriage generally remain separate, but once you're married, things get complicated. Even a short marriage creates entanglements. What about the money we've already spent on the wedding? Consider it a sunk cost, much cheaper than a potentially contentious divorce. If I wanted to protect myself legally while I think about this, think quickly. The closer you get to the wedding date, the more complicated everything becomes. A prenuptial agreement is an option, but given the timeline and your concerns, I'd strongly advise reconsidering the marriage entirely. But that's your decision. We talked for 2 hours. He gave me options, explained my rights, outlined the potential financial exposure. None of it felt good, but at least I understood my position. I went home before my fiancé got back from work, made dinner, acted normal, though everything felt different now. Over the next week, I started paying closer attention to how she talked about our future together. "Hey, I've been thinking," I said one night over dinner. "Maybe we should talk more about our long-term plans. Like, where do we see ourselves in 5 years? That's so far away. Let's just focus on getting through the wedding." I know, but after the wedding, kids? Where we want to live long-term? Career goals? We have time to figure that out. Why are you worrying about this now? I'm not worrying, just thinking about building our future together. Well, stop thinking so much and just enjoy the present. We can plan later. Another night I brought up finances. I was looking at our budget, After the wedding expenses, we should probably create a long-term financial plan. Start thinking about major purchases, retirement, that kind of thing. You're always so focused on money. I just want us to be secure, to plan together. We are secure. You have all those investments and savings. We're fine. Those are mostly from before we met. I was thinking about our shared financial goals, what we want to build together. Let's talk about it after the wedding. I can't think about anything else right now. Every conversation about the future got deflected. Every attempt to discuss long-term shared plans was redirected back to the wedding or dismissed entirely. It matched the pattern I'd seen in those messages, or at least what I'd interpreted from them. Update 3. 2 weeks before the wedding, after carefully considering everything, I made my decision. I couldn't marry her, not with these doubts, not after reading what I'd read and seeing how the pattern continued in our daily conversations. I could have been wrong about what those messages meant, but the risk was too high, and truthfully, the doubts went beyond just the messages. They'd crystallized things I'd been ignoring for a long time. I called my attorney again. I'm calling off the wedding. What do I need to do to protect myself? Document your decision. Keep it brief and civil. You're not obligated to explain your reasoning in detail. Given the circumstances, I'd recommend keeping the focus on compatibility issues rather than specific accusations. What about the wedding expenses? That depends on how she reacts. Some costs might be recoverable, some won't be. But again, far cheaper than a contentious divorce. I spent a day getting organized, made sure all my important documents were in order, changed passwords on financial accounts as a precaution, made sure my pre-relationship assets were clearly documented. My lawyer assured me this was just being prudent. Then I had to have the conversation. I picked a Saturday morning. Neutral time, both of us home, relatively calm. I'd prepared what I wanted to say. She was in the kitchen making coffee when I walked in. We need to talk. Something in my tone made her turn around. Okay, what's up? I can't marry you? She went still. What? I can't go through with the wedding. I'm calling it off. Is this a joke? Because it's not funny. It's not a joke. I've been doing a lot of thinking, and I don't think we should get married. She set down her coffee mug carefully. Where is this coming from? We're 2 weeks away. Everything's planned. I know, and I'm sorry for the timing, but I genuinely believe it's better to end things now than to marry with doubts. Why? What happened? Did I do something? I'd decided beforehand not to mention the messages I'd read, not to accuse her of specific intentions that she might deny or that I might have misunderstood, just to end things based on what I felt was true. I've realized we're not compatible in fundamental ways I've been ignoring or hoping would change. Like what? The way we think about the future, the way we communicate, what we want from partnership. That's vague. Give me something specific. We don't really talk about the future in any meaningful way. Every time I try to discuss long-term plans, real plans about building a life together, you deflect or avoid the conversation. Because I'm focused on the wedding. That's completely normal. It's more than that. We've been together 4 years and engaged for 8 months, and I realize we've never really talked about what we want our life to look like beyond the wedding day itself. So you're just giving up? 2 weeks before our wedding? After 4 years together? I'm being honest about concerns I've had for a while. Concerns I've been trying to ignore. She started crying. This is insane. You're throwing away everything we've built. What have we really built together? We've planned a wedding, we've shared an apartment and expenses, but what have we built that's deeper than logistics and routine? We love each other. I think we've been comfortable. I think we've been going through motions, but I'm not sure we want the same things from life or from marriage. I love you. I want to marry you. I want to build a life with you. Part of me wanted to ask her directly about the messages, but what would that accomplish? Either she'd deny the interpretation, or we'd have a huge fight about me reading her private conversations. The end result would be the same. I don't think we want the same things, I said. And I think if you're really honest with yourself, you know that too. So that's it? You've decided, and I don't get any say? You get a say, but my mind is made up. I'm not marrying you. Not in 2 weeks. Not ever. Update 4. The next 2 weeks were difficult. She stayed with her maid of honor while we figured out logistics. We sent a message to guests saying the wedding was canceled due to unforeseen circumstances, and that gifts should be returned. We dealt with vendors, lost deposits, cancellation fees. Her parents called me, understandably upset and demanding explanations. I kept it simple. We realized we had fundamentally different expectations for marriage. Better to end things now than after making legal vows. Her father pressed me. Did something specific happen? Did you find out something? I've had growing doubts about our compatibility. I should have addressed them sooner, but I didn't. That's on me. And you waited until 2 weeks before the wedding. I was hoping my doubts would resolve. They got worse instead. I'm sorry for the timing. He wasn't happy, but he couldn't force me to marry his daughter. My parents were supportive, though concerned. If you're certain about this, then it's the right choice, my mother said. Marriage is hard enough when you're sure. It's impossible when you're not. My ex-fiancée tried several times to change my mind. Long texts, emails, voicemails. She alternated between apologizing, pleading, and getting angry. You're ruining my life, one message said. You're making a huge mistake, said another. Everyone's going to think I did something wrong. I responded once, by text. I'm taking full responsibility for calling off the wedding. I'm telling everyone it's about compatibility, not about anything you did. I'm not interested in assigning blame. I just know this isn't right for either of us. She tried calling repeatedly. I didn't answer, but sent another text. I don't think more conversation will change anything. I'm sorry for the hurt this causes, but my decision is final. A few days later, one of her bridesmaids, one who'd seemed uncomfortable in some of those messages I'd read, called me. I need to tell you something, she said. I probably shouldn't, but it's been bothering me. Okay. The group chat. Some of the things that were said. I want you to know that not all of us agreed with everything. Some of us were really uncomfortable. I appreciate you saying that. You saw them, didn't you? That's why you called it off. I was careful with my answer. I had doubts about our compatibility. That's all I'll say. You don't have to confirm it. I just wanted you to know that some of us tried to talk her out of certain ideas. Some of us thought some of what was being discussed was wrong. Thank you for telling me that. It helps, actually. Are you going to tell people what you read? No, I'm not interested in that. I just want both of us to move forward. You're handling this better than most people would. Final update. It's been 4 months since I called off the wedding. 4 months of processing, rebuilding, and moving forward with my life. My ex-fiancée moved back in with her parents. Through mutual friends, I heard she tells people I got cold feet and couldn't handle commitment. I've let her have that narrative. It's simpler than the truth, and I'm not interested in correcting public perception. I heard she initially threatened to sue me for wedding expenses and emotional damages, but her lawyer apparently told her she had no case. We'd split costs fairly, and I wasn't legally obligated to marry her. She eventually dropped it. 2 of her bridesmaids reached out separately to apologize for what they'd been part of, even passively. They said they'd tried to discourage certain plans. I appreciated their honesty and told them I held no ill will toward them. As for me, I took some time after everything settled to focus on myself. Traveled a bit, reconnected with old friends I'd neglected, spent more time with family, started seeing a therapist to process what had happened and understand how I'd missed or ignored warning signs. My therapist helped me see that I'd been invested in the idea of the relationship working. Sunk cost fallacy, she called it. Staying in something because you've already invested so much, even when evidence suggests it's not healthy. I started dating again recently. Nothing serious yet, but I'm approaching things differently now. I pay attention to how people talk about the future. I notice when conversations get deflected. I don't ignore small inconsistencies. I'm not bitter about what happened. That surprises some people. But I'm genuinely grateful I discovered what I discovered when I did. Whether my interpretation of those messages was entirely accurate or not, they revealed doubts and patterns that needed addressing. I could have confronted her directly about what I'd read. We could have had a big argument about intentions and interpretations. But I don't think it would have changed anything. Either she would have denied it, or justified it, or we would have fought and ended up in the same place, just with more anger and drama. This way, we both get to move forward. She has whatever story she wants to tell. I have peace of mind and my financial security intact. The people who needed to know the truth know enough. Some people think I should have given her a chance to explain. But explanations wouldn't have changed the fundamental issue. I'd lost trust, and without trust, marriage would have been a disaster. My fiancée's phone kept buzzing during dinner 4 months ago. She smiled and muted it, said, "Just the girls." Later that night, I opened a chat I was never meant to see, and based on what I read, accurate interpretation or not, I realized I couldn't marry someone I no longer trusted. Maybe I misunderstood everything. Maybe those conversations meant something entirely different than what I thought. But the pattern was there. The doubts were real. And acting on those doubts saved me from what could have been a catastrophic mistake. I'm 33 years old. I'm single. I'm more cautious than I used to be, but also more aware of what I need from a partner. I'm financially secure and emotionally recovering. Not every relationship that ends does so because of clear-cut villains and victims. Sometimes you just discover information, or perceive information, that makes you realize you can't move forward. And sometimes the bravest thing you can do is walk away, even when it's complicated and messy and hurts everyone involved. I made my choice based on what I believed to be true. Whether I was entirely right or partially wrong doesn't matter anymore. What matters is that I protected myself, handled things as ethically as I could, and gave both of us a chance to find something better. That's enough.